theory, a basement can be defined as a hollow structure constructed below the ground level. Now it's like a structure. We can call it as a substructure as well. Okay, so I think you already know that the structure above ground, we call it superstructure, and the structure below the ground, we call it substructure. Normally, this is what we say. Okay, basement are common in tall buildings. As car parks, you can have storage of services and underground shopping centers. You know, you may have like other functions of basement. You can have like a pool, maybe. It serves whatever. You know, they also have like basement prison. So it depends. It can be anything because it's just a room without sufficient ventilation. The term basement has been regarded as synonymous to the term deep pit, okay, lubang yang dalam, which applies to excavation over 4.5 meter deep, right? The main purpose of constructing basement are to provide additional space. If you need additional space to do workshop or laundry, okay? And the second one is a form of buoyancy raft. Buoyancy raft is actually a type of foundation. It's a hollow box foundation, also known as the floating foundation. But we don't actually cover this under the deep foundation topic. Okay, this buoyancy raft is actually a type of foundation designed in such a way that they behave like a buoyancy, like it's floating. Okay, for the net loading recovery, like it will support the load because it's foundation. It's a floating foundation. It's a type of floating foundation. But pile is also a type of floating foundation in which you will learn more in the foundation topic, right? So these are like typical. This is very typical. This one, car park. Okay, if you go to shopping complexes, we normally have underground car parks like this. IKEA, Aeon, big Aeons. We have basement car parks, Mid Valley, yeah. And this one here at the top left is a pool. You can also have a sauna room, a gym, whatever you can think of, as long as it's functional. Okay, you can just use the space. And this one is normally in like cold weather countries, they have boiler room, yeah. And then they have services, something like this, similar to this. And sometimes they also do this as the laundry space, right? The next. Okay, to do excavation, the first thing, of course, we need to excavate, yeah, because the structure will be underneath. And there are 4 general methods for constructing a basement. The first one is open cut. And, I always tell my students to look at the names itself. Open cut means you cut it openly, cut the ground, cut it, excavation. Open cut methods means you cut it openly, you have space, you can do slopes. Cut and cover means you cut and you cover, or you cover first and then you cut the ground. Top-down methods means you build the basement from the top to bottom. And composite method, composite means it's a mixture of the above methods. The first one is open cut method. Okay, as you can see in the picture, the cutting of the slopes are pretty steep at the bottom. Okay, because it's pretty steep and it's very vertical. And as it goes up here and it gets a bit slight. Okay, or a lower degree of slopes, around 30, 40 degree of slopes. You can, they can have different degree of slopes. It depends on the site. It also depends on the availability of the space. So if you have more space here, for example, like if you have more space here, you might want to do like a more slight slope, probably like 30, 40 degree, where you can have ramp like this. You can actually just drive through to the basement area. Okay, so it all depends on the construction. Open cut technique is the simplest method of providing an excavation to the required depth. Okay, it's the simplest method. You excavate, you make slopes at the sides. In some cases, with possible slope protection to ensure the stability of the solid mass. Look at the picture. So these are the slopes. Protection, okay, they have protection. In Malaysia, we have heavy rains. We do not want the soil to be soaked up with rainwater, and then we do not want the land to slide, okay, to slide dalam ni, masuk balik. So they put slope protection. Upon excavating to the required level, the basement is then constructed from bottom upwards in the conventional way. So, apa yang dia cakap kat sini is, they will construct the basement as usual from the bottom. They will construct the basement and then they probably have, piling, okay? And they will construct from the bottom sampai siap lah, to the above lah, top bottom. We call this bottom upwards in the conventional way. After the completion of the basement, the remaining excavation areas between the basement and the sides of slopes are subsequently backfilled. And the area, okay, let me show you the illustration. This is the illustration of open cut. So the first thing you excavate, okay, and the degree here, it depends, right? And then you construct as normal. You will have the slab, and then you will have the wall of the basement. Okay, nampak tak ruang ni? This space, okay, you have these spaces at the sides. These spaces need to be backfilled. You tutup balik, backfilled again with the soil, with the excavated soil. Normally, that's what they do. This area need to be backfilled because you do not want water to be here, okay? And you do not want, you want to use the space. Okay, you want to utilize the space, so they backfill, and then you can use the space. They can do anything for landscaping or whatever they want to do, right? So the second method is cut and cover. So as the name tells, it cut and covers, or typically, like for big basement, you cover. This is what I'm pointing here now is the retaining wall. Okay, the retaining wall at the perimeter. So this retaining wall is actually contiguous board pile. Board pile biasa that you have learned in the deep foundation topic, or you will be learning about board pile. It's the same board pile, same technique. It's just that they do it continuously. I'll be explaining this in the next lecture, not in this slides, but in the next slides. In the next part 2 of the lecture. Okay. So this contiguous board pile is the retaining wall. So once they've completed the retaining wall, then they will cut ataupun excavate this area. They will take out. Of course, they will have space to go. Okay, they ada like a slope at the corner. Normally, they will have soil and a slope where they can actually go up. Okay, so this is contiguous board pile. Please remember the name. Please remember this in your mind. Okay, please have please have the picture in your mind. This is another type of retaining wall for basement. This is soldier wall. This is what we call soldier wall. Also, please remember this in your mind because I'll be explaining this in the next lecture. Okay, this is again soldier pile serving as the retaining wall. Retaining wall means you actually retain something. Retaining wall, dinding yang menahan sesuatu. Okay, so in this case, the retaining wall actually menahan the soil from that side, from going to this side. Okay, and they have steel structures here. Okay, so they don't really need strutting for this technique, right? So this is soldier pile retaining wall. Also for cut and cover, this is normally permanent, but can be. So this is a wall. This is double sheet pile. Okay, double, because you have the inner and then you have the external. Sorry, you have double layers of sheet piles. First layer, second layer. And in between this, you will have the tie rod. Okay, rod yang mengikat between these two layers of sheet pile. Then they will have strutting. Okay, semi-strutting, and they will have braces, bracings around. Okay, so around the perimeter, they will use sheet pile. So this type of retaining wall is also normally temporary. It's not permanent. Normally, it's not permanent. They will pull it back. Okay. The cut and cover technique is used when the site is tight, located within a heavily built up urban area where ground movement to the adjacent surrounding must be kept to a minimum. What the point is saying here that normally we use cut and cover technique at very congested area, for example, KLCC area, Ampang area, whereas Bukit Bintang probably. So they want to speed up the construction, and then they don't really have the space for the slopes. Just now I told you about cut and cover, you need space to do the slope, but now they don't really have the space. Okay, and they have many buildings around them. Okay, and these buildings must be kept safe, actually. Because when you do construction, you will have vibrations, you will have excavator, and all of these will make the ground move. You will also learn about this ground movement a bit in soil improvement, soil stabilization. Okay, the ground can move, and if you don't take precaution to do all this, like you don't really do retaining wall, you don't put sheet piles, you will create problems to the surrounding buildings. Okay, let me give you an example. Let me minimize this first, and let's go to this one case. Right, for this is the example. Okay, ni dah banyak kali tangguh. This case was in Cheras. Okay, Cheras at Taman Sri Raya, Batu Sembilan. What happened was the contractor was blamed for not taking enough precaution and resulted in ground movement as well as flood and other problems. Okay, you can see cracks here. This is because they have ground movement. Okay, and when you have ground movement, you can have other problems, not only cracks, but you can have settlement, bangunan jadi sengit, you can have collapse. Building can get collapsed if you have like very huge ground movement. Okay, so I'm not going to read all the news here. You can go and look at Harian Metro on this date. Tak tahulah, tengoklah this link and you can actually go. So let's start again my slide. Soil retaining structures are firstly erected to prevent the surrounding earth from sliding out. Okay, soil retaining structure, the one that I have explained. Either it's contiguous board pile, or soldier pile, or sheet pile, or secant pile, anything. Whereas structuring and bracing are also provided. So it depends. For this one, they have struttings and also struttings here. Struttings and also bracings. And are also provided according to design so that excavation works can be proceed safely. Okay, so you can do your works, but dah ada benda yang retain the soil from coming in. Okay, so you can actually do work without worrying of the risk. They reduce the risk doing this. At reasonable pace until reaching the deepest basement level. The basement is then constructed in the conventional way. It's the same as open cut tadi. Bottom upwards in sequence with removal of temporary strut. So you will construct the building daripada bawah from the bottom to the top. This is typical. This is conventional. Biasa. Okay, and then you will remove the temporary struts yang ada kat dalam pangkar-pangkar yang braces I showed you just now. So let's look at the illustration here. The first one, excavate and strut. They have the first excavation and then they strut the retaining wall from collapsing back to inside, to the construction site, to the where you want to actually do work. The second one, you keep doing the same thing. You dig, you excavate more, and then you will strut the second one. Okay, then you do the slab and also the basement wall. Okay, basement wall, and then you will backfill. Once you backfill, then they will remove out the temporary retaining wall, such as soldier pile and sheet pile. But if it's permanent, then they will just leave it there. It depends on the condition of the soil. Okay, then the third method for excavation of basement is top-down method. Now, I need you to really focus on this because it needs a bit of imagination. Okay? Top-down means you construct the basement from the top to bottom. Just now, I explained for the open cut and cover, you build the basement from the bottom to the top. Okay? How can I explain this? Okay, I want you to imagine wherever you are now, like listening to me and voicing over the slides. I'm sure you are in a room right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you are in your bedroom or you're in the living room. It's very unlikely you're in the bathroom. It would be really awkward if you are in there. So just imagine you are in a room. Dalam bilik tu, in that room, it's like full of soil. And just imagine like you are an ant. Semut. Just imagine like you're a semut. Okay? Now you dekat dalam tanah. And you need to dig the soil. Okay? This is just a metaphor, okay? I always tell my students, construction is just not like, very hard thing to understand. It's just very simple things, the things that you have played when you were a kid. I'm sure when you were a kid, I'm not really sure lah, but I think you've done this. Ambil kayu, kan ada nampak lubang-lubang kat atas tanah. You pergi korek-korek keluar semut. Okay, probably you have seen this. Probably kalau you tak pernah main dengan tanah, you never seen anything like this. But normally, semut kita akan nampak lubang. It's the same thing. It's the same concept like this. They are the semut. You nampak tak orang yang kecil? Inilah semutnya. And this is the digger. Of course, the semut don't have an excavator, but we human needs technology to do this like a very big structure. That's the first thing I want you to imagine. And the second thing, you nampak tak this column? Can you see all these columns? 1 through 3, 4. These columns are called pre-founded columns. I will explain a bit later, but please just put this in your mind. Okay, ingat gambar, snap in your mind, right? And you also have the slab. Macam mana pula slab dah siap? That's what we call top down. Dia dah siap yang top, dia akan go down. The top will be completed first, and then it will go down. So you will have the slab. Just look at this slab, and then you have the retaining wall here. I think this is second pile. I think this is second pile. And then they have the pre-founded column. Okay, now I will explain to you using the illustration. Okay, the first thing is just the cut and cover now. I think cut and cover, you have the retaining wall. So on the illustration, it says diaphragm wall. So you can either use diaphragm wall, secant pile, or contiguous board pile. This, for top down, they don't really use soldier pile or sheet pile. Why? Because the retaining wall will be part of the basement. It will be the basement wall. Compared to cut and cover just now, retaining wall is different, and then they will have a separate wall for basement. But this one, the retaining wall, will be part of the basement. Okay, now this is the ground, and you have 1 and 2, both sides of retaining wall. Okay, perimeter, macam box. And you will have pre-founded columns. These columns can be permanent, it can be temporary. It depends on the designer, on the engineer, or on the requirement of the construction. Okay, so they built these pre-founded columns. Why is it called pre-founded columns? Because they are built before. So it's pre-founded columns. Okay, they constructed before the basement construction. Now, can you see for the second step, they have actually completed the slab. Okay, nampak ni, the first slab. And this slab actually serve as the strut. They don't really need strut or rod or braces, but when they construct this slab, it serves as the strut. It will hold the retaining wall at the sides. At the sides. And once this is completed, they will then excavate the bottom part. And when they are doing the bottom part, when they are excavating here, they can actually also start constructing the superstructure, the first level of the superstructure. So this is one of the advantages. It speeds up the construction. You can do work at the top, and also you can proceed with doing work at the bottom. And students often ask, like, macam mana dia masuk? How? Like, of course, I've told you to imagine yourself as an ant, semut. Okay, so they will have access to go in normally from the side. Daripada tepi ni, they will have access like a ramp. And then they will start excavating from the side. Okay, from the side, they can excavate. Of course, this is the retaining wall. It's like a box, but they will have access. Okay, they will have access normally at the side, and then they will start excavate. The first excavation, and then they will construct the slab of the what is this? The first level. Yeah, the first level of the basement. So you see here, you can see here that this construction is being done from the top to bottom. Okay, from the top to bottom. This is not conventional. This is top down. Oops. And they will continue with the second excavation, and the same thing. The same process will repeat second, third basement. This one got no backfill because the retaining wall is part of the basement, right? The top-down technique is an extension of the cut and cover technique, as I explained. In order to optimize the cut and cover technique, permanent basement structure wall, macam I cakap tadi, they don't use soldier pile or sheet pile because it needs to be permanent. Permanent basement structure wall, diaphragm wall, atau contiguous board pile, or even second pile. Okay, the basement floor slabs acting as struts for external walls. I have explained and I've showed you. The slabs depends on the pre-founded columns as support for the vertical loads on the floor. Okay, of course, columns you support vertical, beam you support horizontal loads. Okay, these columns are known as pre-founded because they are constructed prior to bulk excavation. They are constructed before the excavation, okay? In this technique, the basement floor slabs are cast before excavation to the next level. I have explained this. Okay, you can rewind if you don't understand, rewind, or you can start writing questions on your paper, and when we go live, you ask me questions as we go live, right? Okay, the unique characteristic of the pre-founded column is that it can be installed either for temporary or permanent, as part of the permanent load carrying members for the completed structure. It depends. As obvious advantage of this form of construction is that the superstructure can proceed upwards. I have explained you can do the superstructure, you can also do the basement simultaneously. Simultaneously means you do it at the same time. Sekaligus. The overall development may be completed months earlier, cepat, especially in areas like, I know, like KL area, like I told you, like Ampang, KLCC area, because you have traffic. You need to have traffic control. DBKL normally will ask you to speed up the construction project. And normally projects in KL, they are fast track projects. And normally, they construct 24 hours a day and they will have different gangs to undertake the works. Okay, months earlier than the conventional bottom-up approach in view of this overlapping of superstructure and substructure construction time schedule. Okay, you might be asking, like, how they take out the soil? This is how they do it. Okay, so they excavate like normal, right? They excavate like normal, and then the excavator will put the soil, the earth in the truck. Okay, excavate, and the truck will move out, bringing the earth to the dumping site, or probably they will put aside. Okay, probably they need to use the soil. We have learned that. Okay, so that's how they excavate it. It will continue. It's the same. Okay, then they put it on the truck, and then the truck will remove the soil. Right. Okay, the last method is the composite method. Composite means mixture. Okay, composite technique is a mixture of top-down and bottom-up construction techniques. The main objective of this technique is to optimize the top-down technique by solving the problem of excavation in limited headroom condition. So basically, it's like the same as top-down, but the thing is, some part of the excavation, they need height. They need space for excavation. Okay, so in order to do that, they normally leave like a hole, macam lubang dekat slab tu. Okay, like a pyramid box. walls. I'll show you the illustration later. As in top-down techniques, perimeter structural walls are installed to support the excavation phase. Okay, so you will have the same thing. You will have the retaining wall. Okay, you will have the same thing as well. You will have the pre-founded column. Okay, but the perimeter portion of the story first slab is cast off the ground using the pre-founded columns to support the floor slab. So basically dia macam ada buka sikit kat tengah-tengah slab tu. Dia bukan a complete set of the slab. Okay. Excavation to the middle portion proceeds to basement 1 formation level where the slab is also cast off the ground, meaning that they will have the access in the middle of the slab. That is their actual access. After completing the basement 1 of the slab, the middle portion of story 1 slab is then constructed bottom up. So basically leave like hollow on the slab like one, and once like do the bots while simultaneously. So when they have the ground slab, they can also do the superstructure work above. Okay, access openings are provided in the floor slab. Lubang tu, they will make it as the access. Let's go to the illustration. So this is the illustration. The same thing. You will have the retaining wall. Here it says diaphragm. Okay, and then you will have pre-founded column. The same step. The second step, you will build the floor slab. Remember, at the top down, you cast a complete set of the slab. But this one, they leave a space. Okay? And then they will, of course, do the excavation from here. Okay? And they will cast the second one, the first floor slab of the basement. But sometimes they don't really cast here. They will have another hollow here. And then they will proceed here to the second one. So it depends on how composite it is. Okay, how they want to go about it. Sometimes they also use it. Okay. For example, when they did the basement for services in UTP, our neighbor, University Technology Petronas, half of the slope was open cut and the other side was cut and cover. Okay, they mix different techniques. It can be considered as composite method as well. So this is a picture of composite. Nampak tak lubang? Here, can you see? They have the space. This is where they use crane to drop materials and whatever they need, all other sources. Oops. Okay, this is another example. This is not in Malaysia, yeah? This is somewhere, I think this is in Italy. I can't remember where. Right, so you can see here, pro-founded column, okay, and then it's actually deeper than this. So they will go deeper. Okay, they will excavate deeper than this. So you can see a bob excavator, very small excavator before they can actually excavate with big one. So the big one actually excavating these ciphers. So, yeah, this is composite method, okay? This is an example of composite method. Sorry, this is actually top down. It can be composite, it can be top down. It's not very clear, but this is how they actually do top down excavation. Okay, at the beginning, when I said they have access at the site, this is how they do it. This is in KL. Okay, this is just beside KLCC. You can see Isetan. Okay. So this is how they do. Okay, nampak setan kat sini. It's okay, also see. You have another excavator doing work inside. If you have any questions, just write it down on a piece of paper and ask me questions. Jadikan soil to on the truck so that they can put more soil on the truck. Let's wipe out dengue. Bersama-sama membasmi dengue. I think you get the idea now. I'll stop the video here. Ni dah sampai mana dah? This is at the center. This is at the center. Can you see it's open? Kan, it's open. Nampak tak? It's open. So now they are doing excavation here. Okay. That's the pre-founded column. They use steel columns. Nampak ni? Ni dah sampai berapa level dah? The first, second, the third, second tier of depth. Macam tu. So this is like longer arm of excavator. So dia boleh capai. This one can excavate from the top. Put it in the truck. Soon gets through. Just like a team of ants, isn't it? Macam semut. Nampak ni kerja ni. Kawan dia tolong kawan dia ni. Tak ada siap. Macam okay, how many tiers already now? First, second. It's still on the second tier. This is bucket. This is already for the third tier. So they can actually use the excavator because they don't have excavated with such a long arm. So they use this with the bucket. Okay. Right, so you now know 4 methods of basement excavation. So which one do you want to pick? This is pretty important, okay? You need to know this, which one to use. First thing, you need to know whether the site has like they have so many ways. Okay, we have learned about cohesive and non-cohesive soil. If it's cohesive soil, so open cut might be okay because it's cohesive, berjelekit. Okay. But if it's non-cohesive, for example, sand, if you do open cut, especially the stiff one, just now, when the degree is more than 70, then you need to cover it up. Cut and cover probably is suitable. Okay. The third one, space for soil slopes. If you don't have space, how do you want to do the slopes? So you can't actually use the open cut anymore. Speed of construction. So you want it fast. The best method is top down or composite method. The fifth is whether the depth of the basement is deep enough to justify the use of the technique that would have economics of scale. Let's say if your basement is just like one level, you only have one level of basement, and you want to do cut and cover. You need loads of loads of time, and then you probably waste a lot of money because you only have like one level. So it's best for you if you just use open cut. But it depends. You can also use cut and cover. Maybe you use soldier piles. Okay, but normally if one level normally, they will just use open cut. But if you have more than one level, like say you have maybe 2 levels, you nak buat open cut. Would it be suitable? Would it be suitable? What do you think? Just imagine 2-3 levels of basement, 4 levels of basement. You want to dig all the slopes down, okay, sampai ke bawah to that level. It would take a lot of time. It would take a lot of money. It will waste a lot of energy. So this is cut and cover. So you just cut and cover. Okay. This area is extensive. The site areas and then you will excavator, you will have enemies, you have to see all of this. And the last one is the cost of construction in terms of economy. So if you want a cheap basement, cheap method of excavation, it's open cut. Just potong, excavate. You cangkul sendiri pun boleh. But that's only for basement. Untuk basement kot. But you might need a small excavator yang you nampak mini excavator tadi, because I've seen people DIY their own basement, okay, because they know the techniques. Right. So I think I will end the slide. So that's all for now. Bye.